with that pick, Joy. I mean, they have a lot of options. They could take Trey Lance, sit for a year or two. They could get Kyle Pitts, which to me is what I would do. Or you can move down and get a bunch of picks. But it is interesting. If you don't take Kyle Pitts, you're going to watch him tear the league up and be reminded as Trey Lance is sitting for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, and the other thing is, it's Jordan Love was like the 26th pick or something. Okay, that's one thing. So if you take a quarterback 26 pick, you don't have to play him the first year. But Trey Lance is a 4 pick.
Oh, yeah. That's why I think I don't know what's going on with San Francisco either. Like,
and by the way,
3rd overall pick and the 4th overall pick, fans are going to want to see them.
And Trey Lance, to me, I like Trey Lance way more than Jordan Love out of college. He's more mature. I mean, all my guys are like, he's way more mature. So Trey Lance could tear it up in the preseason, could tear it up in blowout games. I mean, he could really tear it up. You're going to hear stories and he's the opposite of Matt Ryan. So what Matt can't do, Trey can do. And you're going to hear a lot from players. You're going to see video at practice. You're going to see him in games, Trey Lance, and he's going to be tearing it up. And he's going to be the opposite of what Matt is. So can you, for 2 years, as Atlanta goes in a 4-game losing streak or a 3-game losing streak, swallow that? And by the way, Kyle Pitts then is at Cincinnati or Miami with 100 catches and 9 touchdowns. It's really interesting. That's why I say go get Kyle Pitts, and then he will elevate already a very solid top 10, top 12 quarterback, and worry about quarterback in 3 years. It's going to be plenty of quarterbacks in 3 years. But Trey Lance, one of those guys, especially with Matt Ryan's kind of inability, not a big arm, not a big athlete, Trey Lance is going to pop in preseason. Like, he's going to look great, and players are going to talk about him, and you're not going to play him for 2 years.
Yeah, and you gotta pay Matt Ryan $40 million or whatever the cap is.
So, I mean, it brings up another dilemma. What if Trey Lance is and I suspect this. He's going to be very good in camp. He's going to pick up stuff. I mean, Trent Dilfer's like, kid pick stuff up like that. And all of a sudden, Matt Ryan is playing better with Arthur Smith, the new coach, and Trey is great. But you're still the Falcons and going a 3-game losing streak. And you're like, now you've created another dilemma. That's why I say take Kyle Pitts. And by the way, you may be able to trade down a couple spots and get Kyle Pitts. I don't know. But and I think Trey Lance a great prospect. But boy, if you're Atlanta.
I don't think you can take a quarterback if you're Atlanta. I get the mentality of it, but at that high a pick, there's going to be a demand to see him sooner than later. Just is.
I think in any other year, Trey Lance would be a much greater prospect. It's just Trevor Lawrence is here. And Justin Fields from Ohio State. We just haven't seen Trey Lance. What if Trey Lance played at Penn State? I mean, the bottom line, we haven't seen him play. And people are saying, I mean, there's reports now.
That's not really hurting Zach Wilson.
There's a report now that San Francisco will take Mac Jones or Trey Lance. They will not take Justin Fields. I don't know. Greg Jennings joining us now, Fox Sports. And by the way, Greg's going to have a special guest joining us before the end of the interview, so don't go anywhere. You're not going to believe the special guest. So let me ask you about this. When Trevor Lawrence came out and said, Dad says he doesn't live for football, and Trevor's like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. Like, I'm happy. How would you see that as an athlete? How did that land for you?
I honestly didn't mind it. I really didn't mind it. And for me, I think what Trevor Lawrence, is going to have to understand, and those around him, his PR team, his personnel that is in his inner circle, they're going to have to understand that everything that is said is going to be highly picked apart and scrutinized. But for me as a player, I don't need you to have a chip on your shoulder. I just need you to play the way that I've seen you play at the highest level in college football. And that is good enough. Now, can you translate that to NFL professional football at the quarterback position? We all are in agreement that we believe that he will be able to do that. And so if he brings that, I couldn't care less if you play with a chip. Every player that plays this game or plays a sport, any individual has some type of edge, some type of driving force of why. Now, some are bigger, some are smaller, and some understand how to kind of suppress it and not allow their emotions to get too high and rise too low. So for me, I don't mind it as a player.
So the Atlanta discussion is interesting. So when Green Bay drafted Rodgers with Favre, yes, Aaron Rodgers was mobile, but so was Favre. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers had a big arm on this, in practice. Yeah, but it was Brett Favre. So it wasn't like Aaron could do what Brett couldn't. But Trey Lance has got a hose for an arm, and Trey Lance can move around. Again, tell me as a player. So you're at camp, and you're Atlanta with Matt Ryan going a 3-game losing streak, and Trey Lance is doing all the crap that Matt Ryan can at practice. What does that do for a locker room?
Number one, it's unfair. It would be unfair, and here's why. Because it's like any shiny new toy. You're going to want to play with the new toy. Everybody's going to come and play with your new toy and experience it, see it, witness it, and they're going to wonder if it's not out, why don't you have it? Why is it on the field? Why did you get it if you're not going to play with it, if you're not going to use it? And so that's the problem, but it's a good problem to have when you're the Atlanta Falcons, knowing that, okay, we have a veteran guy in Matt Ryan who is a good quarterback. But we know that our future, if we decide to go with Trey Lance, it's going to be in great hands, but they're going to have to, I was listening to you earlier, they're going to have to convince that fan base to just be patient and let that time come versus rushing him in. And because they're going to want to see him. You're right. His arm is big. Everything about Trey Lance is going to be big.
Yes. Yeah. And my people, the scouts, he had a pro day yesterday. He's big. He's got a huge arm. He runs around. And the bottom line is everything he does well is stuff Matt kind of struggles with. And what Trey would struggle with maybe in his first year, which is pre-snap stuff, he's a kid, Matt's great at. But Atlanta's not good enough to go on 9-game winning streaks, but they are average enough to have a 4-game losing streak.
They are. And here's what makes it even more of a challenge for the Atlanta Falcons and their fans. Because you have Julio Jones, and if Julio Jones is healthy and Calvin, really, we saw what he was able to do as far as being a number one guy when Julio was out. And so his ability and his mentality is matched with Julio's now. You almost get to the mentality and the mindset of, well, just let him throw it up to Julio. Matthew Stafford, I remember when Calvin Johnson was with the Detroit Lions, and I saw Matthew Stafford in the offseason one year, and I was like, dude, why don't you just throw it up? And that's the year that Calvin Johnson went crazy for over 2,000. It was ridiculous. And all Matthew Stafford decided to do as a young quarterback was, let me just throw it up to this guy. That's what I would be wanting and looking for